How many legs does a dragon have? Is it 2 or 4 or none? How many wings does a dragon have? Is it 2 sets, 3, or 1? If we check our crests and reference the best, 4 legs and 2 wings has won. I hope you liked my poem, Internet. Lizard here with the Gold Star World Builders Club, and today we're going to be starting a series on dragons. First, we're going to talk about how many legs they ought to have, and in future episodes, we'll cover wings, heads, and other stuff. No legs, just wings, or neither. The no-legged dragons are common in Egyptian folklore, the Bible, Roman and Greek mythology, though heads are a different topic, Norse mythology, and even our boy Satan was referred to as a dragon in the Book of Revelations. It seems the earliest word, Draco, as the etymology goes, originated as a term that was used interchangeably with serpent, or, for a big serpent. Now, it's my personal opinion, and I'm sure shared by many others, that snakes have always freaked people out. Because God took their legs for tricking Eve! And so they made dragons into serpentine vessels of temptation and evil to guide God's children away from the chosen path. But seriously, before the 1200s, dragons were generally just many-headed or winged snakes. Think sea serpents and the like. It all comes back to snakes and a lot of Old Testament mumbo-jumbo. In Asia, they've always had 4 legs, but we'll get to that later. The Bible is probably just a large collection of ancient human myths recanonized to fit a certain agenda. That's a hot one, I know. A lot of ideas concerning dragons were first recorded in some sort of form in the stories that compose the Old Testament. It's really interesting, and before this video I didn't realize the Bible had so many dragons. Either way, the no-legged dragons really paved the way for the concept as we know it in the modern age. Nowadays, we call these long boys worms in most fantasy, and it really makes me think. Snakes don't get enough credit. We should thank them for giving us the concept of dragons, not the Bible. 1 leg, 2 wings? There's not a huge market for this. I mean, there's this guy, but he's technically a one-legged demon able to take the form of a dragon, amongst other things. One-legged dragon seems pretty untilled. So if a dragon only has 2 legs, it's a wyvern. Is that a bestiary codex used for medieval heraldry in the late Middle Ages? Prior to that point, a dragon could have any number of legs. This weird European limb hierarchy is fine, but in my world we use science. 2 legs, 2 wings, because this guy uses science.
Why?
Because it's more scientifically accurate. There's no animal on Earth that has 4 legs plus wings. Nobody has that sort of thing. So even though it's fantasy, I tried too much of a science fiction guy. I want to make it accurate.
And the closest we've had to dragons was probably the pterodactyls. Referencing their anatomy alongside other, larger birds and reptiles of today, we can envision how a creature with similar traits would exist, and even what sort of habitats and niches it would occupy. To address the wyvern thing, and also obey the hierarchy of limb established by the heraldry of the late Middle Ages, we can say wyverns are regarded as kind of a lesser form of dragon. Originally, in the heraldry of the now UK, wyverns were beasts used to combat the evils of Satan and all of his serpents. In all other contexts, they were pestilent and different from dragons in the way of their breath weapons, HP pool, or general intelligence. They're very much winged snakes, and honestly, they are more similar to the cockatrice than I would say they are to dragons. And in the heraldry outside of the United Kingdom, there was no distinction formally between dragons and wyverns. This is not the same as these. I make wyverns more like arthropods, and dragons are reptilian and really, really smart. Also magical, also 2-legged. It's because, well, you heard the man.
Because it's more scientifically accurate.
We're just on that big brain fantasy train. Sorry, nerds. Calling a tail a leg don't make it so, said George Lucas. Now, these are the boys, the real MVPs of the fantasy genre since forever. 4 legs with wings is European, and I've generally found that just 4 legs with no wings is usually East Asia mostly, so China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam all have very similar depictions of dragons, at least according to Wikipedia. The European 4-legged thing does explain the pervasiveness of the beasts in our current fantasy genre, and the first dragon, well, with 4 limbs and wings, came in 1260, and it was this boy. Hey, wait a second. Before this boy, the combination of Asia being generally early to this trend and Europe adopting it from the middle 12th century onwards solidified the popularity of the 4-legged dragon in modern fantasy canons everywhere for centuries to come. Even in modern fantasy, the original Smoke was 4-legged, and you're gonna make 150-page book, 3 movies for the sake of a realistic and true adaptation. Why the hell would you change the coolest thing in the last minute? D&D, the good one, also opts for 4-legged dragons, probably because all of the other fantasy at the time, and pretty much before that was doing four-legged dragons. It's just always been super trendy. It seems like mostly a stylistic choice. Personally, I don't find one better than the other, and 2 or 4 is completely up to the author. Stylistically, I prefer an emphasis on geography and natural evolution, so I'm two-legged gang. But if you want to elevate them relative to other wildlife and make them seem magical and not just like a part of the planet, I mean, if you need legs for that, go for it. A creature with 6 limbs is not unheard of in the natural kingdom either, but that's generally contained to like the arthropod and insect domain. I mean, there aren't enough insect dragons. What if there was like a dragon-type apom, like a tail with the foot on the end? I mean, that's really blurring the line between the whole tail-leg thing. Is that the point of apom? I don't know. Okay, hear me out. Giratina, at least in this form. An arthropod dragon would be super cool, like I've been saying. And luckily we have the locust dragon. It's definitely just a joke somebody drew into a piece of artwork, but it has left cryptid hunters scratching their heads for decades. It's very cool. 6 legs and some wings. That's weird, but hey, I think dragonflies have that same setup. Lucky, but tails still aren't legs. The spider dragon. This is where it gets really insectual. Insect time. But seriously, if I did this dragon with more than 4 legs, they would have exoskeletons and be arthropods. I think with 8 legs, it's pretty much just an arachnid by most definitions. In D&D, they're basilisks, which is in contrast to Harry Potter, which, you know, they went with the whole worm angle, but it seems like the basilisk is often depicted with a little bit of both. I mean, I think the one on Wikipedia has 8 legs, the one in D&D has 8 legs. The first depiction of a basilisk from 79 AD was a small little snick with an AoE venom that scorched everything around it. At the end of the day, the limbs on your dragon and how they got there is completely up to you. Dragons are a very explored idea, and it's always really cool seeing what people can come up with. Pokemon has an incredible array of dragons, and I would personally recommend checking them out if you're looking for inspiration. How to Train Your Dragon has a similarly diverse array in their Pokedex as well, and of course, so does DeviantArt. My dragons have 2 legs because I like to obey the rules. We see it a lot in nature, and if a dragon does have more than 2 legs, it's probably an arthropod or has a weird adaptation that makes sense in context of its habitat. Before making this video, I didn't really think about how dragons would differ from one another, but now I'm definitely going to make a dragon dex for my world, and you should too. It's pretty cool. Hopefully I'll be around next week for how many wings dragons should have, or heads. I'm not sure which appendage I've picked yet. And yeah, thanks for watching, Internet. This has been Lizard with the Gold Star World Builders Club. Out.
Because it's more scientifically accurate. There's no animal on Earth that has 4 legs plus wings. Nobody